be online, we need to do everything over the mic.
But I haven't said that on the mic. Are we going to do this bit on the mic? To be honest. Check, check. Yep. Yeah. Ah, good. Just if you just type in SMWCon 2018 .refractor.com. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, don't worry about that. I'll confuse you. It will. It should take you to the page, and I just recommend bookmarking that so you, because if you start building pages off it, we'll. We will. Of course it won't. Sit with somebody else. Okay. Is there a way they ask questions on the live stream? Yeah. So you can. Okay. Yeah. So I'm happy to go if you are. Okay, thank you. So let me just. Got myself into. There we go. Okay. Right, so if there's anybody new joining us online, what I'd ask you to do is to create yourself an account with refractor.com and then go to this site smwcon2018.refractor.com because that's where we'll actually be doing our work. I will just go over to the syllabus, as it were. Right, so the idea of this tutorial is it really is from zero to hero. We won't necessarily, in the time we have, we probably won't get to hero stage, but you'll get to a stage where you'll feel comfortable that you can take this away, play with it, learn more, and then start to build on those skills that we've created a baseline for. So yeah, so the idea is I've got a sort of structured format here. As I've said, any questions absolutely welcome from the floor, from online, and we'll try and answer them. If I may say we're going to answer that, or you know, I'll try and address it straight away. And as I've said, you can't use Semantic Media Wiki without having the baseline of Media Wiki and understanding a few of the capabilities within MediaWiki. So it's quite important to understand those baselines. Otherwise, you won't necessarily understand what you're doing when you're on the Semantic Media Wiki. So the first thing I wanted to do was just really recap on what the overview of Semantic Media Wiki. So Semantic Media Wiki is a capability that can turn your information that's been collaboratively put together and turn it into structured data. And it's built on the extension, so Semantic Media Wiki is built on the extension of MediaWiki. And it's open source, and this turning information into data is kind of a difficult concept. I probably show this a few too many times, but when you start using Semantic Media Wiki a bit too much, you start looking at these things and looking at this as structured data. So there's all sorts of information within this page and within any Wikipedia page, and you know, a good thing is to go around to look at different Wikipedia pages and look at it and consider, you know, what is the information that you know, what is the data that could be extracted from this. And, you know, as I've talked about before, if I ask you a specific question, you can come along and just read that and find that out. But the more questions I ask and the more detailed questions I ask, it's going to start to take a human far longer than it would a computer if a computer can read what is presented here. And another way of looking semantic media wiki is it's turning text into computer readable language that can be extracted. So you create pages, you create the data behind those pages, and then you're able to query those pages and extract that information. And I think the really powerful thing is you never, with any software engineering, you're never going to create that perfect product straight away. But what it allows you to do is to build it, iterate, go, wait a minute, let's include this, let's include that, we don't need that. And it's actually a really flexible tool for developing that even further. So if I asked you a complex question about Arsenal, you know, how many years have they been in the league, how, you know, who their manager is and so on, you can read that. If we then start looking at multiple sources of information, you've got all these different football clubs, and I start asking you more and more detailed questions. If all of these were stored as semantic media wiki pages, you have that data already, and therefore you can extract the information. So, for example, and you can store things as numbers, data, pages, geo coordinates. So you look at all these, you've got names, you've got pages, you've got dates, you've got the numbers in terms of the capacity of the stadium, you've got where the stadium is located. All those things can be stored in different ways, and therefore you can display them in multiple ways. So there's a longer video that I do of this presentation online, so I'd recommend, rather than me repeating that here, what I'd say is, are there any questions? Does that make sense so far in terms of what semantic media wiki can do with wiki pages? Any questions? All happy? Cool. We'll move on to the next stage. And as I said, if it's a little bit unclear, there is a 10-minute video on YouTube about that where I cover this. But I just wanted to remind you and give you an overview of what semantic media wiki is there to do, or what capable of doing. Okay, so that was semantic media wiki overview. There is media wiki as a content management system. It is a PowerPoint slide, is it? Don't worry, most of these aren't PowerPoint presentations. I think, yeah. So I just really want to focus on this slide. The big thing with MediaWiki is, you know, in a nutshell, you call it open. So anyone can edit within reason, and we'll come back to that. It is relatively easy to learn. It's becoming easier because you're having these extensions called WYSIWYGs, which are what you see is what you get, which is equivalent to a word editor, you know, which is great. That's what everybody understands. That's a universal language. So previously you had to write in media markup language, but the more these editors are introduced, the more accessible it's going to be even further. Instant publish. Once you save that page, that becomes available to everyone. And that means also if that page is that information from that page, and we'll talk about this thing called transclusion later, is used in other pages, it means straight away that information is spread. Collaborative, absolutely. It's a double-edged sword. You know, sometimes people are very opinionated, but at least that is being driven out on a page and not through emails and so on. Tracks changes, really important, and I'll show you that in a sec. You can view the history. You can go back to what the page looked like and when it was last created. builds communities. It does, because you find who's editing that page, and you find, right, they have the same interests as me. So it automatically makes you, it forces you to talk to, not forces you to talk to other people, but you find other people that may be interested in the same topics. Depends how it's used, of course. Knowledge base, absolutely key. The it is as complexity increases, companies increase the complexity of all these different services integrating with each other. How do you manage that knowledge? And this is the perfect platform for it. It's managing the world's knowledge, so surely it can manage your business's knowledge. And agile development, absolutely. So in terms of changes, constant changes, it's keeping pace with that disruption within 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 wherever you're working. Right, the anyone can edit is a really is the elephant in the room. What it is about wikis, a lot of people don't tell customers they're even delivering a wiki, because it's got this bad name of anybody can come along and just destroy the information, just vandalize the website, and it's absolutely untrue. So we were using a wiki within the Ministry of Defence, and you could only edit it if you had an account, and you can see everything that everybody's done. You can see when they've done it, and so so actually it's in a far better place than let's say Word documents, PDFs, where you're not 100% sure who's edited them, when they were edited, or how that actually built up. So really, that's the thing I wanted to stress with MediaWiki. You know, it's all about being open. It's all about collaborative working. Now, there is, and it's already been said, there is a big push in the community to be able to have namespaces, and I'll talk about namespaces, but they're just areas in the wiki that are locked down. So, of course, MediaWiki is built for Wikipedia, which is all about everybody can edit, and it's all free and it's all open, and there's absolutely, prudent reasons for that. The business need is very much, well, actually, I don't necessarily want, people outside HR to be able to edit or go into that HR area, and that is something that hopefully will be developed. The only solution at the moment really is to have separate wikis, and the separation being through networks and firewalls, but hopefully longer term that separation. But you have to be absolutely clear about that and understand that in terms of it is open, and there's good things about that, and there's bad things. Really, so yeah, those are disadvantages, and the separate security zones, and also it makes it quite complicated if you do a query and the culmination of that query then takes it up to a level that you don't want viewed. That becomes quite complicated, but for most use cases that's not an issue. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about categories. Okay, MediaWiki categories. Oh, sorry, no, I'm going to do the navigation first of all. Right. Quite important to know your way round, but you'll learn your way round in terms of MediaWiki, and really where you have a logo on the top left, whatever it be, your company logo or whatever, that will always take you to the main page. And this is the main page, and this is just the wiki that I have on my machine. I just want to talk about some of the features. So on the top right hand side is where you log in and log out. You can have watch list. So is there a laser by any chance? Yeah. I know there's a button not to press to turn off the. No. Yeah, don't worry. It's you just have to. I'll tell you what. I'll point it with my mouse. Okay. So thanks. So up here is who you are. The watch list is really good. Thank you. Oh yeah, excellent. So who you are, watch list. The watch list basically you can choose if you select that star. If you're interested in that page, that means you'll get an email each time. It's either edited, so that what you view here, which is a page, or there's a discussion page. So you'll see if you go to any Wikipedia page, if you go there, you look at the main page, then you look behind. There can be some quite heated discussions sometimes on people's opinions, but it's all there laid out. And what it does is it shows you how the decisions on this page were made. I'll just remind myself of what else okay, so we've got what links here. So we'll just go down on this side, okay. If you're feeling a bit bored, you can go on, like Wikipedia is quite good for that, but I don't know why else you do that. The random page, and you just go to a random page. This what links here is really powerful. I don't think I have anything that links to this page. I'll just see. Yeah, sure. Good point. Okay, so what links here is really useful. So I've just clicked what links here for the main page, and this one page links to here. Why that's important is if you're making a change to that page, it enables you to see the possible effect of that change. So that's you've got a page. It's let's say let's say your organisation has changed. You've changed the name of the department, and you need to change the name of that department. What you can do is you can move the page, so the page can be moved. So this is the current name of the page, and you can change it to something else. So let's say, I don't know, the information officer has become the chief information officer, something like that. You can move it to that. But what you also want to do is to see all those pages that have linked there. They will automatically redirect, but they still may have the old name there. So it shows you how you can link back to that page. So it said watch list, edit. Okay, history. This is what I talked about in terms of seeing how things have changed. You know, you can go back to these different dates and you can see what the page looked like then, which again, sometimes is very useful if you, let's say you contracted against that page. That's quite a powerful thing. Or if you don't like what Ben Fletcher's done and you have admin rights, you can undo what he's done, or you can say actually it's actually quite good if you're experimenting yourself and you want to roll back because you've completely destroyed the page. You just roll back to when it was okay. And so the other feature and something that you'll get used to is this special pages. And again, if you're managing a huge document set that we were, for example, we were, things like what the oldest pages are, which meant we could go to these people and say, you haven't updated that in 6 months. Are you happy with that? Those sort of things are quite powerful. So there's all sorts of things within the maintenance reports here that are really, some of them I've never used and never needed to, but it has more than enough in terms of what you want to do, in terms of if you want to understand the health of your wiki. Again, you can search for all the property, all the pages, the categories, which we'll talk about in a sec, the properties. All these things are templates. All of these things we're going to cover. This is where you can see them all to remind yourself. If you've got admin rights, you can create people's accounts. You can block people if you don't like them. And the other big thing and this page forms. So this is one of the extensions. And what I should have said is MediaWiki is built. So Semantic MediaWiki, which is an extension, also uses an extension called page forms. And one of the things that doesn't lend itself to being easily trialed out is that there are a bunch of extensions that you have to add to MediaWiki to get it started, and it isn't necessarily that easy for the user. So my suggestion always is go to somewhere like refractor.com, which is really out of date, and Jeroen, who's the owner of that, absolutely accepts that. But it's actually a good place just to prototype and trial things out to say, actually, yeah, that's what I want, and then you can work out what extensions you want, and then create your package, whether you're hosting it on your machine or you're hosting it in the cloud. So this page forms will be absolutely key to creating these things in terms of properties, templates, and so on. So that, as I said, that special pages is really useful in terms of the maintenance of the wiki, understanding the health of the wiki, and understanding those different things. Are there any questions in terms of the main page and the features? No? Either really happy or I've lost you already. So oh yeah, sorry. So Billy asked there, where do we get the extensions from? So the extensions, there's no agreed list of extensions in terms of it's up to you, and I don't necessarily think this is particularly helpful. I think there should be a group of extensions that we say that to have a functioning, bare minimum functioning baseline, thank you. A baseline of semantic MediaWiki. That's what you need. But in terms of, that you need MediaWiki, obviously, but the extensions you need are page forms and semantic MediaWiki, and all you do is look up MediaWiki extensions, page forms, and semantic MediaWiki, and a lot of them then tell you what's the other things that you need to add to create it. So we'll pass you the mic.
Is there a central repository?
Yes. So every extension that's created for MediaWiki is held in the MediaWiki site.
Okay.
So. I'm not a robot. So there you go. So you can see there you've got the extensions, and this one is semantic MediaWiki, and there's all sorts. There's more extensions, as you know, Billy. We've had questions. Can you do this? Can you do that? And we've looked it up, and there's always been an extension for it. I've never had a use case that hasn't had somebody who's already created an extension for. It's incredible at times.
Yeah. So the issue I have is about the maintenance of the extensions and ensuring they're always up to date and you've got the right copy, and configuration management and those sort of things. Those issues start coming in. And
because it is a open source community, you are relying on the goodwill of those authors for actually maintaining it. But the key ones are kept up to date because the community, sometimes the more bespoke, more specialized extensions are less reliable for that.
Maybe an additional question to this. How can I prove the extension, or is there for every description, or is there a description for every extension?
Yeah, so sorry, did I?
Yeah.
What do you mean by, so
that a description what the extension does and how the functionality is, or what can I do with this extension? I think it's a really good thing for new users to see what does the extension really.
Yeah. So, Carsten, now you hit it. There is a place in Semantic MediaWiki, isn't there, that has a list of extensions in there?
Yes, there's a list, but I must admit it's badly kept. I think your best shot is still looking at MediaWiki.org and look at the Semantic MediaWiki extensions category and see what's there. And all these extensions are more or less described in a
But thanks. No, that's
good way. But there's no versioning and so on. So what you see is the current status of that documentation, and it might be out of date, it might not be out of date, it might contain errors or not. So it depends really on the experience sometimes of a reader to assess, is this an extension you could go for, or is this an extension you can't go for? And after, let's say, 10 years, I pretty much feel confident about assessing the status of an extension. If I just look at the page, I don't even have to read through it, and I know, okay, forget about this, go next one. So it's pretty hard. But look at the revision history of a page and see if there's activity. And the more activity you have on this page, the more likely it is that the page contains current information, and the more likely it is that people actually use it, and actually use it, and then that it's popular, and that means that it's maintained is more likely, or maintained in a good way. No? But it's really, it's a matter of experience, and
Also, for those that want really to get started with Wikibox or Semantic Media Wiki and are looking for a stable setup, we have also a free version of our Media Wiki distribution. You can find this under semantic.wiki, and it's called Semantic Core. That's our enterprise distribution. And there's also a free version with almost all the typical extensions you're using in such a setup, and that's for free. You can download a complete virtual box in SourceForge, so you are ready to rumble in around 5 minutes. If you scroll down or go to product, scroll down a little bit, there's the Semantic Core Go, and if you click on that box, this gives you a little introduction, and then it navigates you to a download link on SourceForge. Here there's the download link on the left side, And there's also a little description how to get this set up, and it's quite easy. It's just a virtual box, so you don't have to mess around with admin rights, setting up operating system, database, and all this stuff. Everything is integrated, and for those that want to get started, is I think the simplest way.
Excellent, thank you. And actually, it's a really good demonstration. So you talked about. So at the bottom here, we're about to go on to categories, but this is a really good example of category overkill. You know, so we'll talk about categories and how they work, and then we'll talk about Semantic Media Wiki and show you why the problem of this many categories, because you can go absolutely crazy with categories, but this many categories almost led to. There's lots of reasons how Semantic Media Wiki came about. But one of the things was the huge number of categories that each page started creating. And here are, so there's 53. So I've clicked on the category, the Semantic Media Wiki extension category. And as you can see, it's 53. There's 53 there, which is way too much for somebody to be able to go through and work out which ones they want and which ones they don't want. But just be able to set up an easy installation. Start playing with it and understanding if it's actually the content management system, the knowledge management system that you want. Okay, thank you for the questions. They're great so far. Okay, so we've covered the content management system, the how you navigate your way around. Just an overview. Okay, so we're going to talk about categories now. So when you create a page, and whether it be a football club, whether it be an animal or something, you may want to group a bunch of pages, and the way you do that is something called categories. So you assign a category to a page, and what that does is that then groups those pages together. So as I clicked on as you saw, the extension, the category Semantic Media Wiki extensions, because everybody's added that category to that page, it's grouped all of those 53 pages together, and you have those. But categories, again, is the first way of organizing your wiki, and will become important as well, because you may be querying, and you'll query a category and then more specific details in it. So let's just, I'm pretty sure these are PowerPoint. Yeah. So again, I'm going to go through these quickly because well, there's videos online which have used these very slides. So in more of a detailed version. Okay, so categories. An example: you have a bunch of cars, and you want to categorize them. You want to categorize them as sports cars and micro cars. I think it's fairly obvious which are which. So what you do is you then create those categories within that. So if I go to a page, and this is, oops, I'll just show you where I've already done this. Okay, so I've created all the cars, as I said, so choosing a random one, the Suzuki. Okay, so you'll see under there, it's French, but hopefully we can we can understand that. So it's got category and it's got micro car, and the way I did that, so I need to log in. And the way you add category is you just add double square brackets, category, colon, and what the name is, so the category that you've created. And so if I show you here on the edit how I've done that, and what we'll do now, well, what I'll do is I'll explain categories, I'll explain sharing categories, subcategories, and then what we'll do is we'll do a little exercise on the page where we create a few pages and we turn them into categories, because that's going to be important for later. So as you see, I've written about the lovely car, I've added the picture, but this is what I've written. So you can create a category. You'll understand me. I don't know. I'll add it to sports car as well, just to oops. Sports car, double brackets, save changes. So I've now placed, and this is the key point there, I've now placed that car in two categories, and that's not a problem. It can be as many categories as you like, it doesn't matter. Pictorially, so you can see now it's in two categories, it's in the micro car category and it's in the sports car category. Don't think it is a sports car, but you never know. So in terms of those different pages, if you go to each of those pages, you'll see each of those are being grouped together in their categories. What we also did there, although I did it for another car. Sorry, please.
So the example we've seen now with the categories, does that mean that it makes sense to give exactly one category to a thing, to say, okay, that's a sports car, that's a micro car, to have this really separated out and made clear?
No, I don't. Okay, so let me get on to the next two next two things, and hopefully I'll answer that, and if I haven't, come back to me. But it depends. It's your use case. The more categories you get, the more reason you should be using Semantic Media Wiki. So categories should be larger things. You shouldn't overuse them. A classic example of overusing them was what you saw with the extension of Semantic Media Wiki, where there's probably about, I don't know how many extensions, how many categories there were there. So if I go back to the extension. Sorry. I'll find it in a bit anyway. MediaWiki. Yeah, well, I know why that is. Yeah. Let me explain on to the next one. So the other thing you can do, so actually amazingly enough, not the one that I changed to, not the one I changed that one, so I've actually moved that to sports cars, not moved it, incorporated it as well. This one is actually classed as a sports car and a microcar, and so that has, so if you go to that page, you'll see it has category both sports car and microcar. So there's no reason why something can't have multiple categories and be in multiple things. The more they start sharing out, the more categories you create, the more confusing it can get. The other thing that you can have is subcategories. So you may have a sports car, but you may also have which ones are sports cars, which ones are electric sports cars. So that's a subcategory of sports cars. So they are sports cars, but a subcategory of that is ones that are electric. So it's not a separate category, it is electric sports cars. And the way you do that, so amazingly enough, there is an electric sports car within here. So it's a sports car in its own right, but it's an electric sports car. So as a subcategory, you've still got that, haven't you? Yeah. This isn't opening, which is right. I can't open it at the moment, so let's just create one. The sandbox has fallen over. I blame you, Carsten. Okay. Yeah, it's not happy. Right, the server's not happy. Okay, so we are going to... I've done it already. Okay, so within here we've got a category, and I've said, so this category is MediaWiki categories. Wait, I've confused myself. Let's go. Okay, MediaWiki templates. Excellent. Here we go. So you've got a category called MediaWiki template. So I've got 4 pages here. I've got... Oh, sorry, just talking to myself. Yeah. It's just me then. It doesn't like me. You're right, it's back up. Let's... which car was it? It was a BMW i8, wasn't it? Okay, I'll build it here, be quicker. Okay, so within category of MediaWiki templates, what you see is you see one subcategory, which is MediaWiki transclusions, and these are other pages that sit in this category. So they sit in the category, and MediaWiki transclusion is a subcategory of that. So if I go to... This is MediaWiki transclusion. What you'll see is at the bottom, this is in the, so this is a category, MediaWiki transclusions. And this sits, so this category sits inside the MediaWiki templates category. And then this category sits inside the SMW tutorial category. So you can think about it as the big bubble is the SMW18 tutorial page. Below this there are some categories, and below that there are some subcategories. So they're just, I sort of visualize it as concentric circles. So there's this overall, these are all a part of the tutorial, these are all pages that are part of this tutorial, and then you have smaller ones that are saying this is just templates, this is just categories, and then there may be a smaller bit of templates which this is just the beginning bit, you know, this is just templates introduction, this is intermediate templates. So you can imagine all those things build up to this overall category of semantic of the tutorial of this page. So there's SMW18 tutorial page. So back to your question specifically, there's no wrong or right answer, but I think once you start getting too many categories at the bottom, that is the time to think about semantic MediaWiki as a better way of organising and putting these things together. Now, I'm conscious that is 45 minutes. Should we take a break? Yep. That's my attention span. I don't know what yours is, but mine's 45 minutes. Then my brain goes. Cool. Okay. So just before we go, are there any questions, or I'll tell you what, think about questions and then we'll have a little question and answer session when we come back. Excellent. Thank you.